There has been many new different sides to cinema over the last century that the way films are produced become more and more innovative. Whether it was with visual style or certain techniques, the art of filmmaking is ever changing and evolves in its own very clever way. Today I'm going to be talking about two styles or movements in particular, German Expressionism and British New Wave. Now let's start off with the latter. It became popular in between the 1960s and 70s. It was something new on the scene and it was focused mostly around the working class and economic power. It aimed to give the people of the working class a voice, and it achieved it by challenging the status quo about life as a working class person in the 60s and how it wasn't exactly all things bright and beautiful. The films in British New Wave were often shot in what is known as a pseudo documentary style, in which the locations weren't a set and the people in the film weren't actors or extras. They were real ordinary people. It was done in order to be as authentic as possible and capture real life as it happens. One notable figure in the world of British New Wave is Jack Clayton. He was important because he brought the style of new British filmmaking to the very top. This is the man who directed the Oscar-winning 1959 Room at the Top. Clayton was very picky and constantly refused to make a film that he didn't want to, but was still admired by people like Spielberg and Scorsese. There was a small group of people that became pivotal to the story of British New Wave, and they went by the name of the Angry Young Men. These were a set of post-war poets and playwrights that were upset about the state of England when they came back from the Second World War. Because of this, the productions they made overlapped with the motives that British New Wave were attempting to get across, and they went on to form a film production company named Woodfall, the acclaimed studio of the most significant British films in the 60s. Moving on from the movement in 60s Britain onto early 20th century Germany, where an art form named German Expressionism was born. In the 1910s to 30s, there was a new form of art style beginning that was made to emphasise the artist's inner feelings over replicating reality. The art in question was characterised by simplified shapes, bright colours and gestural marks and brushstrokes. It was similar to that of Italian neo-realism, but slightly more surreal. In films, German Expressionism was initially confined to its homeland, and it was basically isolated during the First World War. This was because the German government placed a ban on foreign films, so the demand for new films sparked a new wave of domestic production. The count of films in Germany went from 24 in 1914 to 130 in the space of just 4 years. This was good for the German public, as they found themselves at the theatre frequently due to the heavy inflation the country was facing. During the 20s, the international admiration for the movement was becoming more and more apparent. As previously mentioned, the visuals in German Expressionism was geometrically absurd, with angles and shapes in comparison to reality, as well as painted on shadows and lighting on the set. This was due to the low budgets the filmmakers of the time have found themselves on, so it was improvisation at the same time. To add to the peculiar aesthetic of the films, the plot lines of said films were almost equally as odd, touching on subjects like insanity, madness and other notions that were experienced because of the First World War. One of, if not the most iconic piece of German Expressionism cinema is 1920's The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, directed by Robert Wiene. After a while, the movement seemed to have faded away into obscurity, but hints of the movement can be found in films afterwards, most notably in Phantom of the Opera and Dracula. But hands down, there is one person to be held responsible for the revamped life of German Expressionism today, and his name is Tim Burton. Burton managed to take this old style of art and cinema and make it his own. In even his early work, it is clear that he was heavily influenced by the expressionist styles mentioned before. One of his first animations, Vincent, screams German Expressionism, and other films he's made such as Edward Scissorhands, Sweeney Todd, and The Nightmare Before Christmas also emphasise his love for the movement. In conclusion, these two movements changed the world of cinema in their own way as big and small, and the impacts of such are still apparent to this day.